Hey there, it's Amy from beingamytheblog.com. And for today's blog, I wanted to keep it simple and just share a coaching tool that I use frequently in my own life. And it's very simple. It comes from a school of psychology called Action and Commitment Therapy, ACT for short. And all you do is you take a thought that you are maybe spinning. Maybe it's a thought that's been spinning in your mind, something you're perseverating on, and you essentially add the phrase, "I notice myself having the thought that." So, for example, I have noticed for me that over the past 2 days, I'm noticing myself emotion wise feeling a little bit dense, heavy. I kind of think of it as like the weather systems. You know, the weather comes and goes. We don't have a lot of control over it. And sometimes it's sunny and sometimes it's cloudy and overcast. Well, I've been a little cloudy and overcast the last 2 days. And I have struggled on and off my entire life with depression and depressive episodes. And so if I start noticing myself sometimes feeling heavier than the weather system overcast, sometimes I get ahead of myself. I start thinking about, the future and how long is this going to last? And I start to get nervous and I start to resist. And so as an example for me, the thought that I'm having about this sort of temporary feeling of heaviness is I should feel better, or I shouldn't feel so low. And so that's the thought that I've been able to kind of single out that I've been feeling. And so for me, what I would do is I would repeat the thought, I shouldn't feel so low, and allow myself kind of to feel into that and what happens, what do I notice in my body, what comes up when I actually give myself over to the thought and actually completely buy into it. And then what you do is you take that same thought, I shouldn't feel so low, and add, I notice myself having the thought, I shouldn't feel so low. And so what happens is that you'll notice, if you try this on a thought that you're maybe thinking, is that it will put you in a position of the observer. And so you kind of go quantum. You're both the human being who's having this thought, but you're also the human being who's observing yourself having the thought. And when you observe yourself having the thought, what you'll often notice is that it takes the intensity out of the thought so that you're no longer completely buying into it. You're just a human being who's noticing yourself having a thought, as opposed to what can happen is we completely identify with the thought. And so it allows for a certain amount of control, a certain amount of, I guess, sovereignty over what it is that you buy into and what it is that you don't. And so that's essentially it. It's like you have a thought that's creating stress for you. And then you allow yourself to believe the thought, and just that's all just so that you can get a sense of contrast. And then you take that same thought and you add, I notice myself having the thought that, and just see what happens. Chances are you're going to feel a lot less hooked in to the actual thought, so that you can become the watcher of the thought. And from there, you don't have to completely identify with it. For me, what I think about is that my thoughts are just, they're coming in, and I can, when I'm in this position of watcher, I can choose whether or not I want to completely identify with that thought, or just notice it, just notice it and then just kind of watch it float away. It's not so that I can control the thought. It's more that I can just be a witness to it. I've modified this tool a little bit, and I actually use it for thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. So in my last blog post, I mentioned in a sort of joking way that I narrate my life, but it's sort of a kind of a continuation of this tool. So I notice myself feeling a heaviness in my chest. I notice myself going and buying a latte to self-medicate this feeling of heaviness in my chest. I notice myself scrolling through social media as a way to distract myself from this heaviness in my chest. And so it's sort of like I'm just there, I'm the person, I'm the human who's having the behaviors or the feelings or the thoughts, but I'm also the person who's watching myself have those feelings, behaviors, and thoughts. And it reminds me of what I'll often try to do with friends or family who are experiencing a lot of emotional pain, or maybe they're feeling really out of control. I know sometimes with my kids that'll happen, and what I'll try to do is I'll just try to be present without needing to fix or change anything about the situation. And it kind of reminds me of that Hafiz poem where he says, "Troubled, stay with me, for I am not." It's this idea that we can watch our thoughts, we can watch our feelings, we can watch our behaviors from this place of acceptance without having to judge them or change them or fix them. And that's what I find creates connection when I'm present for friends and family. It's just this presence, it's this safe container where they can be themselves in all their humanity without judgment. And that's what I try to create for myself when I am in this position of watcher with whatever troubling behavior or feeling or thought that I'm having. I'm not trying to fix. I'm not trying to solve. I'm not trying to change. I'm just present in a place of acceptance, watching myself. And really that's the idea, is can we be in a place of acceptance without judging ourselves, without needing to change ourselves or be different or be better, and just with compassion, be the observer, knowing that, yes, I am the human who's experiencing these behaviors, these feelings, these thoughts, but I'm also the watcher. I'm also the human who's observing myself in these behaviors from a place of acceptance. And that has really allowed me to be really more present with myself, and also to just be more honest with myself. And I know from experience that the more honest we can be with ourselves about our behaviors, then the more we're in a position to choose differently the next time. So it is, it's kind of for lack of a better word, it really has been kind of an empowering situation. I'll share one example of how this worked for me. One of the things that I will often find myself doing in terms of behaviors when I'm not feeling at my best emotionally is I will all of a sudden want to buy things. I will want to purchase, different things. And so Instagram was showing me this really cute store with all these cute blouses and dresses that actually were pretty expensive. And I was noticing myself, I was being the watcher, noticing myself really, really wanting to purchase some clothes that would end up costing me hundreds of dollars. And, it's not to say that it's a bad thing, but for me at that point, it just financially wasn't a good time for me to make those purchases. But there was this part of me that was really craving to do it. And because I was also being the watcher of myself, I really could feel into sort of the emotional response that I was having, this feeling of craving, and then this feeling of wanting to hit click and make those purchases. And I was able to just be really aware of how deep I was in this sort of I guess, avoidance behavior, but also kind of under the spell of thinking that these clothes, they were really cute, but that they were going to fix everything. And from that place, I just chose not to buy anything, not to make the purchases. So that's kind of an example of how it can play out. It just allows me to feel like I am in a better place to make decisions that serve me ultimately. Not to say that I won't go back at some point and maybe purchase something from that store, but at that point I knew it wasn't the right thing for me. So that is the tool. Comes from acceptance and commitment therapy. It's really simple. Start with a thought. That maybe maybe you notice you're spinning and there's a lot of thoughts. You can just notice yourself having the thought. Then to take it a step further is, noticing your emotions, noticing your behaviors, noticing your thoughts, and see if you can do it from a place of acceptance, as if you are creating a safe container for you to just be all of it, just to be an imperfect human and allow that to be okay, and see what changes, if anything, in your life. So if you liked this video, if you found it helpful, post a comment below. Definitely give it a like, or feel free to share it. Again, this is Amy from beingamytheblog.com. Thanks.